The most powerful people are not always the ones everyone notices first. In the quiet town of Fairmont, there was a woman who carried years of dedication, discipline, and service without ever needing the world to know her name. To most people who passed by her, she looked like anyone else beginning an ordinary day. She did not wear a uniform. She did not display her rank. She did not introduce herself with the title she had earned through years of commitment. She was simply Olivia Carter. But behind that calm presence was a story built on responsibility and honor. Olivia had spent much of her life serving in the United States military. Her career was shaped by early mornings, difficult decisions, and a commitment to something larger than herself. She understood that true service was not measured by attention or recognition. It was measured by the choices someone made when nobody was watching. That belief followed her everywhere, including the moments when she stepped away from military life and entered the world as an ordinary person. Olivia carried herself with confidence, but never arrogance. She understood the value of her position, but she never believed her rank made her more important than anyone else. To her, respect was not something that should be demanded because of a title. Respect was something earned through character, responsibility, and the way a person treated others. On this particular day, Olivia moved through Fairmont with the same quiet focus she had always carried. She had a simple goal and expected nothing unusual to happen. She was not looking for recognition. She was not searching for attention. She was simply living a moment outside the identity that most people never knew existed. The military pass she carried represented years of service and commitment. It was more than a piece of identification. It was a symbol of trust, responsibility, and the journey that had shaped her. But Olivia also knew something important. A document could explain a position, but it could never fully explain a person. Across town, Officer Michael Anderson began his shift with the Fairmont Police Department. Like every day, he prepared himself for the responsibilities that came with wearing the badge. Michael believed in structure, awareness, and making decisions based on the information available. His uniform represented a visible form of authority that people recognized immediately. He had spent years learning how to handle unexpected situations and believed that experience helped him understand people quickly. What Michael did not know was that one of the people he would soon encounter carried a story far beyond what appeared on the surface. He saw the world through the information he had. Olivia carried the truth that remained unseen. Neither of them knew their paths were about to cross. Neither understood that a simple moment would soon challenge assumptions, reveal hidden strength, and remind everyone that a person's worth is never defined by what others see first. Sometimes the greatest stories begin with someone who looks ordinary, until the world discovers everything they were carrying all along. Officer Michael Anderson believed every day brought a new responsibility. For him, wearing the uniform was not simply about having authority. It was about carrying the expectations of the community he served. In Fairmont, people recognized him before they knew anything about him. The badge, the uniform, and the role he represented created an immediate understanding of who he was. Michael had spent years building his career around awareness and preparation. He believed that experience mattered because every situation required careful attention. He had learned to notice details, ask questions, and make decisions based on the information available in front of him. Those lessons shaped the way he approached his work. But like anyone who had spent years in a demanding profession, Michael also carried the influence of his experiences. Every person develops patterns based on what they have seen, what they have learned, and what they have encountered throughout life. Michael trusted his training, and he believed that good judgment came from understanding situations quickly and responding responsibly. Across town, Olivia Carter continued moving through her day without expecting anything unusual. She had lived by the principles of discipline and patience for years. Her military career had taught her that the strongest people were often the ones who remained calm when circumstances became uncertain. Olivia never believed that power came from making others feel small. She believed power came from knowing when to use restraint, when to listen, and when to allow the truth to reveal itself naturally. The difference between Olivia and Michael was not that one person cared about responsibility and the other did not. Both valued service. Both believed their roles carried importance. The difference was that one carried a visible symbol of authority, while the other carried a history that remained unseen. Michael saw a person he did not know. Olivia knew exactly who she was and what she had dedicated her life to becoming. That contrast was what made their paths crossing so significant. Many people make decisions based on the information they have at a specific moment. They see a situation from one angle and create an understanding from what is visible. But sometimes the most important parts of a story are the parts that cannot be seen immediately. Olivia understood that better than most because her entire career had been built around looking beyond the surface. She knew that every person had details others could never guess. She knew that a quiet individual could carry extraordinary responsibilities. As the day continued in Fairmont, neither Olivia nor Michael realized how close they were to a moment that would challenge their perspectives. Michael carried the confidence of someone trusted with public responsibility. Olivia carried the quiet strength of someone who had dedicated years to serving her country. One carried a badge that people recognized instantly. The other carried a military journey that few people knew existed. And soon, a simple encounter between them would reveal how quickly appearances could change when the truth finally came into view. For years, Olivia Carter had carried something most people never noticed. It was not just the military pass she kept secure or the rank she had earned through dedication. It was the collection of experiences behind those symbols. Every early morning, every difficult decision, and every moment of responsibility had shaped the person she became. But Olivia never believed that her value came from a document or a title. Those things represented her service, but they did not create her character. The person she was had been built long before anyone recognized her accomplishments. Throughout her military career, Olivia learned that true leadership was often quiet. It was not about demanding attention or expecting special treatment. It was about staying focused, remaining disciplined, and making choices that reflected honor. She had worked alongside people from many different backgrounds and learned that every individual carried a story that was impossible to understand from the outside. That lesson became one of the most important principles in her life. Olivia knew that appearances could be misleading. A person could look ordinary while carrying extraordinary responsibilities. A simple conversation could involve someone with years of experience, knowledge, and service that nobody else could see. That understanding was why Olivia never rushed to judge others. She believed everyone deserved the same patience she hoped to receive. The military pass she carried was important because it represented trust. It was connected to her identity within the organization she served. It showed that she had earned a place through commitment and effort. But Olivia also understood that the document itself was only a symbol. The real meaning came from the years behind it. The sacrifices, the discipline, and the dedication could not be measured by a single piece of identification. Meanwhile, Officer Michael Anderson continued his work in Fairmont with the mindset that experience helped him understand the world around him. He had spent years learning how to handle situations that required attention and professionalism. His badge represented his responsibility to the community, and he took that responsibility seriously. But every person has moments when their understanding is tested. Sometimes the greatest lessons come from situations where the information available is incomplete. Michael did not know Olivia's history. He did not know the years of service behind her calm expression. He only knew the details visible in front of him. That was the challenge facing both of them. Olivia carried a truth that remained hidden. Michael carried a responsibility that was immediately visible. Their paths were about to cross in a way that would bring those two realities together. Neither person expected the importance of the moment ahead. Neither understood that a simple encounter could reveal how easily people can misunderstand someone when they only see a small part of the story. And sometimes, the greatest changes begin when the hidden parts of a person's journey finally come to light. The morning in Fairmont appeared completely ordinary, the kind of day where people followed their routines without expecting anything unusual to happen. Cars moved through familiar streets, businesses opened their doors, and residents continued with their daily responsibilities. For Olivia Carter, it was simply another moment outside of her military duties. She carried herself with the same discipline and calmness that had guided her for years. She was not searching for attention, and she was not expecting anyone to recognize the significance behind the identification she carried. To Olivia, the most important part of any interaction was how people treated each other before knowing anything about their background. Across the city, Officer Michael Anderson continued his shift with the same focus he brought every day. He believed in being prepared and professional. His role required him to make decisions based on what he could observe and understand in the moment. The badge on his uniform represented a responsibility that the community could immediately recognize. It showed people that he was there to provide assistance, maintain order, and handle situations that required attention. Neither Olivia nor Michael knew that their paths were about to cross. When they first encountered each other, there was no obvious sign that the moment would become memorable. There was no indication that one person carried years of military service while the other carried years of public responsibility. They were simply two individuals meeting during an unexpected situation. Michael looked at the information available to him. Olivia remained calm and respectful, allowing the moment to unfold without immediately explaining everything about herself. She understood that revealing her military identity would instantly change the way people viewed the interaction. Suddenly, the focus would shift from the situation itself to the title she carried. People might respond differently because they knew her position, not because they understood her as a person. That was something Olivia had experienced throughout her life. She had seen how quickly opinions could change when people discovered someone's achievements. But she believed the strongest form of respect was the kind given before recognition arrived. As the conversation continued, small details began to stand out. Olivia's confidence, her patience, and the way she communicated suggested a level of experience that was not immediately obvious. Michael noticed that she handled the moment differently from what he expected. There was a calmness that came from someone who had faced responsibility before. But without knowing her background, he could only understand what was directly in front of him. That was the challenge of first impressions. People often make judgments using only a small piece of a much larger story. They see a moment, but they do not see the years that created the person standing there. Olivia knew the truth behind her own journey. Michael did not. And as the situation continued, the difference between what was visible and what was hidden became more important. Neither person realized that the next moments would reveal a story far greater than either of them expected. A military pass, a badge, and a simple encounter would soon become connected in a way that would change how everyone viewed the situation. The situation in Fairmont continued to unfold in a way that neither Olivia Carter nor Officer Michael Anderson expected. What began as a simple interaction slowly revealed deeper questions about identity, assumptions, and the importance of understanding the person behind what is immediately visible. Olivia remained calm throughout the moment because she had learned a valuable lesson during her years of military service. Not every situation needed an immediate reaction. Sometimes the strongest response was patience. Sometimes allowing the truth to appear naturally created a greater impact than forcing people to see it. The military had taught Olivia that discipline was not only about following instructions. It was also about controlling emotions, respecting processes, and understanding that every person deserved to be treated with dignity. Her calm approach was not weakness. It was the result of years of experience and responsibility. She knew exactly who she was, and she did not need to prove it through anger or authority. The military pass she carried remained an important symbol of her service. It represented years of commitment, training, and trust. It was connected to the responsibilities she had accepted and the people she had worked alongside. But Olivia also understood that the value behind that pass came from the journey it represented, not simply from the information printed on it. A document could confirm a position, but it could never fully explain the character of the person holding it. Michael Anderson continued observing the situation through the perspective of his role. He believed in doing his job carefully and responsibly. He had spent years learning how to evaluate circumstances and make decisions based on available information. That experience gave him confidence, but this moment reminded him that information was not always complete. Sometimes the most important details were the ones people could not see. As the interaction continued, The difference between appearance and reality became clearer. Olivia was not trying to create a dramatic reveal. She was not waiting for a moment to prove she had a higher position. She simply wanted the situation to be handled fairly. Her identity was part of her story, but it was not the only thing that defined her. Michael noticed that Olivia's behavior did not match the assumptions that could come from a quick observation. She remained respectful, composed, and focused. There was a level of confidence that came from someone who understood responsibility. But without knowing her background, he could not yet understand where that confidence came from. The challenge of moments like this is that people often believe they know the entire story when they only know one chapter. They see a person standing in front of them, but they do not see the experiences that shaped that person. Olivia carried years of service that remained invisible. Michael carried years of public responsibility that were immediately recognized. Their roles were different, but both believed they were doing what was expected of them. Neither realized that the next moment would bring a change that would reveal the truth behind Olivia's quiet presence. The military pass that represented her journey was about to become more than an identification card. It was about to become the key to understanding the person standing before them. The moment that changed everything did not begin with a dramatic announcement. It began with a simple realization that there was more to Olivia Carter's story than anyone around her understood. For a while, the situation remained focused on what could be seen on the surface. A woman standing quietly, a police officer following his understanding of the moment. A conversation between two people who believed they were simply doing what they were supposed to do. But behind that ordinary scene was a truth waiting to be recognized. Olivia had always understood that her military service was not just about a position. It was about responsibility, commitment, and the people who trusted her. The military pass she carried represented years of dedication. It represented early mornings, long hours, and the promise she made to serve with honor. Losing that symbol would never erase the work she had done, but it still carried meaning because it connected her to a community built on trust and sacrifice. She looked at the situation with patience because she knew something important. Truth does not always need to be forced. Sometimes it only needs the right moment to be revealed. Officer Michael Anderson began to notice that there was something different about Olivia's approach. She was not acting like someone trying to gain control of the situation. She was not attempting to use a title or position to change the conversation. Instead, she remained calm and respectful, even while carrying a story that nobody around her knew. That quiet confidence made Michael think more carefully about what he was seeing. Throughout his career, Michael had learned that every situation had details that needed to be understood. But this moment reminded him that people also had details that could not be immediately observed. A person's history, achievements, and experiences were often hidden behind a simple introduction. Olivia was a reminder of that truth. She was someone whose greatest accomplishments were not visible at first glance. As the situation continued, important questions began to emerge. How often do people judge others before knowing the full story? How often does someone's appearance become the first and only information people use to understand them? Olivia had faced challenges before, and she knew that moments of misunderstanding could reveal the values people truly carried. She believed respect should come before recognition. She believed fairness should not depend on knowing someone's title. That belief was why she remained composed. She was not waiting for a powerful person to arrive and speak for her. She trusted that the truth would eventually speak for itself. Somewhere else in Fairmont, a call was about to reach someone who knew exactly who Olivia Carter was. Someone who understood the years behind her name, the service behind her uniform, and the dedication behind the quiet person standing in that moment. Colonel James Walker had spent years leading people like Olivia. He knew that leadership was not about seeking attention. It was about recognizing those who carried responsibility with honor. And when he learned what had happened, he understood that this was not only about one military officer. It was about making sure the truth was finally seen. The arrival of Colonel James Walker did not bring chaos or confusion. It brought clarity. In moments when people only see a small part of a story, sometimes the truth arrives quietly and changes everything. Colonel Walker had spent years leading military personnel, and he understood that the most important moments of leadership were not always the loudest ones. Sometimes they came through a simple act of recognition. Sometimes they came through showing respect to someone who had earned it long before anyone else noticed. As he entered the situation in Fairmont, he already knew the person standing there. He knew Olivia Carter's dedication, her professionalism, and the years of service behind her calm expression. He knew that the military past connected to her identity represented far more than a piece of information. It represented trust, commitment, and the responsibilities she had carried throughout her career. For everyone watching, the difference between what they thought they knew and what was actually true became impossible to ignore. Olivia remained composed as Colonel Walker approached. She did not suddenly change her personality because someone important had arrived. She did not become louder or demand attention. She remained the same person she had been from the beginning. That was one of the qualities Colonel Walker respected most about her. True leadership did not appear only when recognition was guaranteed. It appeared in the quiet moments when a person chose patience, professionalism, and dignity. Colonel Walker greeted Olivia with the respect she had earned through her service. His presence confirmed what had remained hidden throughout the entire encounter. The woman standing before everyone was not simply someone passing through Fairmont. She was a military officer who had dedicated years of her life to serving something greater than herself. The meaning of the moment was not about rank defeating rank. It was not about one person having more value than another. The lesson was much deeper. It was about understanding that every person deserves respect before their achievements become known. Officer Michael Anderson watched the scene carefully. The reality of the moment gave him a different perspective. The person he had encountered earlier was not suddenly valuable because a commander arrived. She had always carried that value. The commander's arrival did not create Olivia's honor. It simply revealed what had already been there. That realization stayed with Michael. He began to understand that people often carry invisible chapters of their lives. Some chapters include years of service. Some include personal struggles. Some include achievements that may never be obvious to strangers. A first impression can only show a small piece of the complete story. Olivia looked at the people around her and understood that this moment could become a lesson. She did not want anyone to walk away believing that respect should only be given after discovering someone's title. She wanted them to understand something much more important. Respect should come first. Recognition should come second. The salute from Colonel Walker was not simply a military tradition. It was a reminder that honor exists beyond appearances. It was a reminder that the person standing quietly in front of you may have a story far greater than you could ever imagine. And in that moment, everyone in Fairmont saw the truth that had been hidden all along. After the truth became visible in Fairmont, the most important part of the moment was not what people discovered about Olivia Carter. It was what they learned about how they viewed others before knowing the full story. Olivia had never wanted recognition simply because of her military position. She had never believed that a title made someone more deserving of respect. In her eyes, every person deserved dignity before anyone knew their accomplishments, their career, or the responsibilities they carried. That belief had guided her throughout her years of service, and it continued to guide her after the moment that brought so much attention. Colonel James Walker understood that lesson better than most. As a leader, he had seen many people who carried impressive titles but lacked the character needed to represent them. He had also seen people who quietly carried enormous responsibilities without seeking praise. Olivia belonged to the second group. Her strength came from discipline, patience, and the ability to remain focused even when circumstances were difficult. The military had taught her that leadership was not about demanding recognition. It was about earning trust through consistent actions. Officer Michael Anderson continued thinking about the encounter long after the moment had passed. He reflected on the difference between knowing a person's identity and understanding their character. Before that day, he had believed that careful observation was enough to understand most situations. His experience had taught him to pay attention to details, but Olivia's story reminded him that some of the most important details were invisible. A person's history could not always be seen in a brief interaction. A person's dedication could not always be recognized by appearance alone. Michael realized that everyone carried a story beyond what others could immediately understand. The lesson was not only about Olivia. It was about every person who had ever been judged before being fully known. Olivia saw the opportunity to turn the experience into something positive. She did not focus on embarrassment or frustration. Instead, she focused on what could be learned. She believed communities became stronger when people were willing to examine their assumptions and choose understanding over quick conclusions. She knew that mistakes could become moments of growth when people were willing to listen and reflect. The people of Fairmont began to see the situation differently. They understood that the most meaningful part of the story was not a military title or a moment of recognition. The real lesson was about the value of treating every person with fairness from the beginning. A person should not need to prove their importance before receiving respect. They should not need a uniform, a badge, or a position to be treated with dignity. Olivia's experience showed that identity is more than what others can immediately recognize. Behind every individual is a collection of experiences, responsibilities, and choices that shape who they are. Some stories are visible. Others remain hidden until the right moment reveals them. As Olivia continued her service, she carried the same quiet confidence she always had. She did not walk away changed because someone finally recognized her. She walked away knowing that the greatest impact came from reminding others that every person deserves to be seen for more than what appears on the surface. The moment in Fairmont became a reminder that respect should never begin after discovery. It should begin before the truth is revealed. Years after the moment that brought Olivia Carter, Officer Michael Anderson, and Colonel James Walker together, the lesson from Fairmont continued to live on. It was never remembered because of a single document or one unexpected encounter. It was remembered because it showed something much deeper about people, assumptions, and the importance of recognizing the humanity in everyone. Olivia continued her military service with the same dedication she had always carried. She never looked back at the moment as something that defined her. Instead, she viewed it as another reminder of why respect and understanding mattered. Her rank was meaningful because it represented years of commitment, but she knew her true value existed beyond any title. She was still the same person who believed in patience, responsibility, and treating others with dignity. For Olivia, leadership was not about proving that she was important. It was about showing through her actions what true service looked like. Colonel James Walker continued leading with the same principles he had always valued. He knew that moments like the one in Fairmont could become powerful lessons when people chose to learn from them. He never saw the situation as a chance to embarrass anyone. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity to remind others that respect should never depend on discovering someone's background. A person's achievements should be celebrated, but a person's basic dignity should never require proof. Officer Michael Anderson also carried the memory of that day differently. His experience changed the way he approached his role in the community. He still believed in responsibility and professionalism, but he became more aware of the stories people carried that were not immediately visible. He understood that making a decision was not only about seeing what was in front of him. It was also about recognizing that there could always be more to discover. The lesson stayed with him every time he interacted with someone new. He remembered that every person had experiences, challenges, and achievements that might never be obvious at first glance. The community of Fairmont also learned something important. They saw that respect was not created by a uniform, a badge, or a position. Those things could represent responsibility, but they did not determine a person's worth. True respect came from recognizing people as individuals before knowing what they had accomplished. Olivia's story became a quiet reminder that many people walk through life carrying invisible chapters. Some people carry years of service. Some carry personal victories. Some carry responsibilities that few will ever understand. The challenge is that the world often judges quickly because it only sees a small part of the picture. But every person is more than the first impression they create. The most meaningful change happens when people choose curiosity over assumptions and understanding over quick judgment. Olivia never needed a commander's recognition to become valuable. She never needed a title to deserve fairness. The salute she received was not the beginning of her honor. It was simply a moment when others finally recognized what had always been there. In the end, the story of Olivia Carter was not only about a military officer, a police officer, or a misunderstanding in a small American town. It was about a universal truth. The person standing in front of you may be carrying a story you cannot see. And sometimes, the greatest lesson in life comes from realizing that every person deserves respect before their story is ever revealed.